Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, a slew of updates on future attractions and experiences coming to the parks, a look behind the attraction vehicles from Imagineering,
a guide to the Disneyland 70th anniversary and what to expect. 2 iconic attractions have returned. Indiana Jones turned 30. We talk with Dr. Disneyland Jeff Barnes and more. DL Weekly starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard the DL Weekly podcast. Please, lower your head and watch your step while boarding. If this is your first time listening, we hope you'll check out our website at DLWeekly.net. If you have more time to spend, becoming an official weekly tier at DLWeekly.net/support is an especially good value. Thanks for traveling with us today, and we hope you have a happy and memorable listen to this week's episode.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of March 12th, 2025. I'm Teresa Urban.
And I'm producer James. Tag is home with a cough.
Well, we would like to thank everyone who supports the show. This week, we would like to give a special shout out to Shelly G and Janelle A for becoming new official weekly tiers, but also to Barbara H and Mike N for your continued support. If you would like to help support the show and get ad-free versions of each episode, access to our supporter-only chat, plus a bunch of other fun perks, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to become an official weekly tier.
Now let's get to the news.
Extra, extra, read all about it. DL Weekly reports from intrepid correspondents Tag and Teresa. You heard it here first, ladies and gents. Breaking news!
Well, this week at the South by Southwest, Disney had a panel called The Future of World Building at Disney, which gave us a ton of information about upcoming theme park attractions. One of these was the updated experience coming next year to the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. The new adventure will feature the Mandalorian and Grogu, better known as the Child, from the hit Disney Plus series. This new experience will take guests to new locations for the attraction, like Cloud City, Tatooine, and the Death Star wreckage. The update will coincide with the premiere of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie on May 22nd, 2026.
Tag was so excited to tell me about this when he saw the news, I think yesterday. He's like, they're doing a new one. May 2026. And I'm like, that's so far away.
It is very far away. But the exciting thing, so they said that this was coming at D23, but what was more exciting about this is we got a few more layers pulled back. So things like, well, now we know where this new journey is going to take us to places like Cloud City, Tatooine, Death Star wreckage. I mean, come on, how fun. Mm-hmm. And the date. We did not have a date when they made this initial announcement. So yeah, everyone mark your calendars, May 22nd, 2026. How fitting that it's, during just official Star Wars Day, but still kind of in Star Wars
It's usually still in the season of the Force. So, and it's doing what we've asked Disney to do in the parks of promote like movies or other things within the park. And so we have this.
We've got some nice synergy going on. So that's pretty exciting.
I'd also like to say excitement. There's 3 planets on there. That means lots of opportunities to pull the lever.
That's a good point. Well, and I'm wondering, does this mean, is it going to be kind of like Star Tours where we don't always have the same mission?
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
I was just putting them all together in one, but your idea seems to make way more sense. Because I feel like,
let's think, right now, what do? You
leave the Rebel
from
base.
The base, so you go Batuu. From Galaxy's Edge, Batuu, and then you go
to Corellia, and then you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the one jump.
There is some wreckage that you go through, like on that planet, but we don't go through multiple locations. So this
maybe.
I'm curious.
I imagine we'll leave Batuu all the same for this one. So your idea of 3 different locations. Fascinating proposal.
We need to talk about something that's also super fun and exciting, Star Wars related, that was announced during this, that also actually ties back into The Mandalorian. The little BDX droids are making an appearance in the Mandalorian film.
Yes.
But they're also going on a world tour. And they're going to be, so I know this isn't Disneyland specific, but they originated at Disneyland, right? So they're going to like Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris. So they're going around to go visit other folks in other parks. And what's even cooler, I don't know if you saw this, but they have, I don't remember the little guy's name now, but they have a new animatronic, and it's basically, it looks like it's a BDX droid, but it's got not Babu Frick, but that same little guy that was in The Mandalorian. He's like a droid repair.
Oh, okay.
Little guy. Oh, I feel like a bad person for not remembering.
Babu Frick is the droid repair guy.
So, but this character was introduced to us in The Mandalorian, and I don't remember. He's same type of creature, but different. It's a different one.
Okay.
His name is Otto. He's
An Anzellan.
An Anzellan named Otto. Dang, I'll have to find that picture because it doesn't look like it's in the Disney Parks blog.
Not in the notes, but you're making me sad because I still never got to see the BD droids when they were in the park.
They were so good.
I know, you talked them up so much.
They were so good. But you know what? Since they're now going to be used for other things, maybe that means that they'll be coming back.
We can hope. Also at South by Southwest, Disney gave new details on the Avengers Campus updates at Disneyland. The large e-ticket Avengers Infinity Defense didn't get much new information, but the Stark Flight Lab did. Robert Downey Jr., who plays Tony Stark and Iron Man, was present to talk about the upcoming attraction. The attraction will have guests in gyrokinetic pods that will roll on a track before being attached to a giant robotic arm and taken through some high-speed maneuvers. Transferring the ride vehicle from track to the robot arm and back has never been done before.
This looks wild. There's a couple really crazy cool behind the scenes kind of like how it works tech aspects that they previewed at this panel. This was one of them. This obviously is our Disneyland one. They also were showing off how the Monsters Inc. roller coaster is going to work at Walt Disney World.
Ooh,
and
nice.
It's so cool. So links in the show notes, of course, for photos of this. But so when this first was announced at D23, Tag and I both didn't get it. We're like, that feels like it's gonna be not something that's gonna be able to get through people really fast. But this looks crazy how they're doing this, because you kind of like enter your little pod thing and then the arm clamps onto it from the back. So it's not like it's not like something like Jumpin' Jellyfish where people get on, they go through the ride, and then you kind of stand and wait, and then they have to get off, and then you like swap spaces with them. This seems like it would be maybe more efficient because I don't know if either the vehicles are kind of shifting or if the arms are shifting, but you could have people getting off and like loading and unloading while the arm is like thrown around other people or whatever it is it's doing.
I think about the arm and Universal Magic spoilers, but the Harry Potter journey in the Hogwarts castle also has you sitting on an arm as you move around there. And so you roll through that. And it's like you're saying, they can eat up a lot of people on that because of how they load and unload on those moving platforms to get you going and quickly go in there. So adding this with like those pods, that just makes me think of like Jurassic World, where you're going to roll around into who knows what kind of world. Like it's really nice to see like really crazy new ideas of technology, especially being tied into an Iron Man themed attraction.
Yeah, the video is really interesting, but yeah, like you can see the arm kind of like come and connect to the pod. So it's not just like one full piece all the time. It's crazy. Yeah. Absolutely crazy.
I'm really excited for both of these because I think it'll just give so much more value and boom to Avengers Campus and everything that's going on there. So it should be so good.
I'm going to have to find the videos and make sure we put those in the links for the show notes too, so everyone can watch those too. Well, all of this can be seen in the latest episode of We Call It Imagineering on the Walt Disney Imagineering YouTube channel. So you know what? You don't even need the Instagram links because just watch We Call It Imagineering. In the latest episode, they talk about the updates we just mentioned, as well as talk with legendary Imagineer Bob Gurr. The episode covers all kind of ride vehicles from past, present, and into the future. There's even a great behind-the-curtain look at the underbelly of the Omnimover system at the Haunted Mansion. If you want to take a look at this, check out the link in our show notes.
I haven't watched this all the way through. I've only seen bits and pieces. So I have a hunch you probably have a better first take than I do. So I think you should go first.
I love these episodes. So anytime that they do these like peek behind the curtain things, love it. We were so excited when they had the first, I think this is maybe only the second one.
I think it's episode 3.
3? Okay.
But it's been a hot minute.
I was going to say, it felt like maybe the 2 were right in the beginning and then there was a break. But these are just so fun. I love that they're giving these to us. I was not expecting this to be, it made sense to me that it coincided with the announcements that they just made at the South by Southwest panel, but I wasn't expecting to see like all of the other things too. I just love it.
Yeah, it's so many cool details, like from thinking about the origins, and I love that this gets people like Bob Gurr telling stories that will be preserved, that we can keep on sharing and love the history. But then we still see the cool things of today, like how they're merging like the gaming systems in with everything that they're doing, like in Smuggler's Run.
Look at that, like just wild things. Because I even enjoy just watching like the testing. We're kind of just letting this play in the background as we talk about it. But like the little glimpse of the origins of like the Soren.
Oh yeah.
Like that's not what it looks like, but they showed, again, peek behind the curtain, show you what it looks like. And like James said, I really always enjoy watching kind of the process of how they kind of create these things in a, I don't know, giant warehouse, and they're riding around in these in a warehouse, but of course they all have like goggles on they can virtually see what they would be seeing in the attraction. It's just, it's amazing. It's one of those things that sometimes we as fans, I know I'm definitely one that kind of is like, why does it take so long? Like you feel like they tell you about it and then it takes forever for you to see it, and then you, whatever. Yep. So, and then you kind of see this stuff and you're like, oh, well, okay. Because it's just way more involved than people would realize.
And their whole explanation about like, they're given a story and told to figure out a ride vehicle that fits it. It's like, oh yeah, of course, no problem.
So one thing that they were talking about with the South by Southwest stuff was, again, I know this is Disney World focused, but they were talking about the new Cars attraction coming to Walt Disney World. And they actually took a trip to Arizona in the desert. They went to Sedona, Arizona, and went on like off-roading tours to try and get like the feel of what it feels like to be off-roading and to be driving over different terrains, but also kind of how those vehicles move, because they're going to try and replicate that for the attraction. So they actually built a dirt track somewhere. I don't know. Obviously, they didn't announce where this is. That Imagineering has been going through, and they're building out the ride with this like physical dirt track that they made, and they're going around in like UTVs. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Like it's such an interesting process. I could just sit here and continue watching this, so I need to not.
So in other words, go watch it.
Go watch it. Good, it's so good.
20 minutes well spent. So South by Southwest conference, super busy because there's more. It was announced that characters from the upcoming Fantastic Four movie will be coming to Tomorrowland. This includes Herbie, the flying robot that will be in the upcoming movie. No firm date on when they will land in Tomorrowland, but it's likely around the premiere of the movie on July 25th, 2025.
Okay, so this was interesting to me. I'm not surprised about the synergy of bringing characters from the screen into the parks, because Disney's gotten into a good pattern of doing that, and we love it. The thing I found very exciting that some folks are speculating about is that these Marvel characters, which typically when they do come to the parks are going to Avengers Campus, they're not. They're going to Tomorrowland. So, of course, that's got all sorts of folks wondering, is this a hint at a retheme? Because really, the place that Fantastic Four takes place in is kind of like the mid-century modern ideals of the future, which is what Tomorrowland used to be. So I don't know. I feel like maybe people are reading into it, like the tea leaves or whatever you want to call it. But it's an interesting idea.
I mean, I can't get over. There's a picture in one of the articles we have linked that has the thing in Herbie in a kitchen. And to me, it's just like, is this the carousel of progress?
See?
It screams carousel of progress. Not that that's going to be the reality, but you are so right that it is so interesting that they're dropping in Tomorrowland. I think it might be like Avengers Campus is just really busy with characters.
That could be. There's the construction and such going on. Plus, this just kind of gives something to Tomorrowland. So I'm curious if they're going to have a specific spot that they're meeting and greeting. I can't think of any exterior locations. So maybe this is going to be an interior meet and greet that maybe they even have like a set that they build. So it's a little bit more interesting than just them wandering around. I don't know. This is totally me just thinking on the fly.
I could imagine them somewhere around like the Tomorrowland stage that happens there too. But I think your interior one sounds like a way better idea.
I almost wonder because they use that one space that was the Starcade. They use that kind of as like after dark merch event type, like it's kind of an overflow use now. I almost could see maybe that being one, but who knows?
So while we're living in this big what if question mark, do you think that the thing comes out like the big Hulk that we had from a while ago?
That's what I was wondering too. I'm wondering if he's going to be, I think it'll be that same technology. I don't know if it'll be that same scale.
Right. That'll be cool.
But yeah.
So I have so much high hopes for Fantastic Four. I think it's such a great franchise that I'm so sad has not worked so many times.
Yeah.
Because it's everything that I imagine Marvel based its success on early on, of familiar names, a familiar story that fans can really get on, versus now where we're getting into a little bit more of the obscure for characters. And so it's harder for the average person to pick up. But I feel like most people, my generation or older, is very well aware of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't tell me everyone's powers or who they are, but you're aware.
I think it's a recognition thing. It's kind of back to like, obviously not Marvel, but like Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you've never read the comics, but you're aware of those characters.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, the Disney Parks blog posted a guide to the 70th anniversary at the Disneyland Resort with some new details for the celebration. The celebration will run May 16th, 2025 through summer of 2026. I would say that would be through when Halloween starts creeping in, would be what summer of 2026 means.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Updates to the previous information include a new theme song called Celebrate Happy. The new show, World of Color Happiness, will explore happy through other emotions, hosted by Joy and other emotions from Inside Out and Inside Out 2, which makes total sense, right?
Absolutely.
Boys to Men will have a rendition of Rainbow Connection in the show, and Fitz and the Tantrums will debut a song for World of Color called Makes Me Want to Move. The Muppets will also appear before the show. That makes me happy.
We've been clamoring for Muppets.
Yes.
So
and when's the last time the Muppets have been back in Disneyland? At the Disneyland Resort, because we had Muppet Vision was in DCA. It went away.
Yep.
The Muppets themselves made an appearance for what was a Christmas after hours event. I think they were caroling or something like that.
That checks out. Yep.
That's the most recent thing I can think of. So this is like big news for Muppet fans.
Bring them on.
Bring them. We're ready.
Absolutely. But my gosh, so many things happening here. I am looking forward to a new World of Color, not because I don't like World of Color 1, but because of how much I like World of Color 1 more than World of Color. And I think if we can really thrive on that energy, we can make something really cool.
So, like, in the concept art, I'm seeing, of course, the Inside Out characters, because we know there are hosts.
Of course.
I'm seeing Elsa from Frozen, which I feel like, yep, it's a nighttime entertainment thing. Is it a nighttime entertainment thing if Frozen's not included? Because we just have gotten accustomed to Frozen. But I'm also seeing villains like Ursula and Scar, which is exciting.
Notable for me is it looks like this might be the first appearance of Wish.
You're right.
We've got
Star right there. We've got, this looks like Rapunzel, Louisa and her donkey.
Of course. Yep.
Panda May, Four Town. And like the cherry on top for me, Powerline.
Yeah, some eye to eye maybe showing up. Oh,
yes,
this is a really nice looking mix of modern 90s and not really classics, I guess.
Yeah, that we are. We're like the quote unquote classics here would be perhaps
The Lion King and the
Little Mermaid.
It might
borderline goofy movie.
A goofy movie might be the oldest one. Yeah.
Maybe I don't. Those are not they're not the classics. We're not dating ourselves. The movies we grew up with are not the classics.
Not yet.
We're giving ourselves some more time. But yeah, it looks like a really fun mix and different things from what we typically, apart from Elsa, different things than what we typically are seeing in Nighttime Spectaculars. So that's what's really exciting to me.
since I'm all in on this what if game today, Teresa, so we get a new theme song. Does that mean Celebrate Happy brings a new fireworks show with it as well? I feel like that's kind of the jam, right? We get the song and it goes with the fireworks at night.
Could be, but they had already announced that Wondrous is coming back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe for year 2 to get you excited.
You can just play the new song in your head.
Yeah.
during Wondrous, I guess.
Wondrous is good too, though.
Wondrous is really good too. I know Tag was really excited about that.
Yeah. Well, more updates for the 70th. Paint the Night, as we know, is coming back. And with it, the Frozen float that was removed to fit under the red car trolley wires in Disney California Adventure is back in the parade, along with Anna and Elsa.
Told you, can't be a nighttime.
Yeah.
It's
Teresa.
not a nighttime entertainment offering if we don't have a little Frozen in there. This is interesting to me because when was it's been a while since the parade was in Disneyland. So it's I'm just always fascinated by the fact that they still had this float.
Because that was 2015, I think, back then. Soft open 2015 and ran until 2016.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah.
So it's been 10 years. Well, 9 years since it was in Disneyland.
But yeah, so the fact that this float's been
hanging out
somewhere.
Hey, it just proves Disney's gotten good at archiving and holding on to things, right?
It's true. Well, more on this later to come. We will tie this back in with how well Disney is good at archiving stuff.
Yes.
Hint, hint. Stay for the end. Well, over at It's a Small World, a new light, music, and projection show called Tapestry of Happiness will bring an animated mosaic of Disneyland attractions, memories, and moments in a style inspired by Disney artist Mary Blair. Very fitting. It will feature the Celebrate Happy theme song, there you go, James, along with nods to other Disneyland tunes.
I have to imagine you are over the moon because I have it in my head that you really love the art style of Mary Blair, and now is your time to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
I'm like, what am I correcting you about? No,
I just want to be sure.
I do. I really, she's got such a unique style and such a wonderful vision of colors and how she uses colors. And it's such a unique style. It makes me sad to know that she maybe didn't get all of the respect and praise and, thanks when she was alive, but I really do love that Disney is real, modern day Disney is really embracing her and doing quite a bit to things to kind of honor her.
Yeah.
Again, stay tuned for the end because we have a little bit more on some other updates to Small World coming too. But the other thing too that I just wanted to really mention, I meant to talk about this with World of Color, but I am really enjoying the fact that Disney has the technology and the ability to take some of these shows and keep freshening them up.
Yeah.
Because World of Color, World of Color was World of Color for quite a while. We did have, of course, Season of Light.
Yep.
And then the first Oogie Boogie Bash, they did a different version of World of Color. I think they called it Villainous, maybe. But it's really been kind of that same main show. And then we had World of Color 1, which was really lovely. So the fact that we just had World of Color 1 recently, and now we're getting yet another new World of Color show is really, really exciting to me. Same thing with the technology, the projection mapping that they're doing on Small World.
And I love that because this one to me always feels like one of those things you don't necessarily plan on, but when you stumble upon it, it's awesome. It's just a great thing to see. It's really mesmerizing. It's something just really nice to have around. And I love that we're getting Disney music, or at least Disneyland music, along with it as well. That's something I always crave in the park.
Well, and the cool thing with these shows, like you said, obviously they're scheduled, but they feel a little bit more sporadic because you don't have people lining up hours ahead of time to stake out their spot, because they offer this multiple times throughout the night. So there's no need to do that. So basically everybody can get a good spot. It just depends on which time you stop by to enjoy the show, which I think is really awesome. Obviously you can't do that with fire or, something like a fireworks show, because that's a little bit more involved. But I do love that they're able to kind of bring this to light.
All right, more. In addition to Paint the Night, which will perform in the evening, we've got the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade, which will appear along the parade route during the day. The new cavalcade will feature characters often not seen at Disneyland, like Duffy and Shelley May. And Teresa, I feel like we need a little introduction to Duffy and Shelley May.
We do. We talked about Duffy a while back we had Imagineer Greg Coombs on, and we talked about the Japan parks. Tokyo Disney Sea is really where the Duffy story kind of came at the origins, I guess would be a good way of saying it. It was the origins of the Duffy story in the sense of Duffy at the parks. Duffy, for those of you that don't know, Duffy is Mickey Mouse's teddy bear, and he was gifted to Mickey by, of course, Minnie Mouse. And Duffy has friends like teddy bears do. We've learned this with Winnie the Pooh. But so Duffy and Shelley May's kind of like, I don't know if it's really his girlfriend, but she's the female teddy bear. And then we've got Gelatoni and Stella Lou, Cookie Ann, Lou Mel. He's my favorite. You might recognize him if you've been to Alani, which that ties back into other things that we're talking about later. Stay tuned, because spoiler alert, we talk about the Alani Resort.
Teaser all day today.
Plus, there's a couple other friends, because there's also the adorable pink fox that I'm blanking the name of. But the thing that's adorable is all these little characters have their own little backstories and their own little personalities. Like Gelatoni is actually an artist, and Duffy really likes sailing. Cookie Ann's a baker. So anyways, these are not characters that are often seen in the U.S. parks. They are a big deal in, especially like Japan, I want to say Hong Kong, maybe even Shanghai, really have embraced these characters, and they're really part of their parks there. So it's really cool. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I think it's a little bit of a big deal that Duffy is making like quite a, not debut, because I think Duffy's been in the parks before, but he's got such a prominent position in the 70th anniversary celebration.
Yeah, right in front of the Fab 6 or 7, whatever they've become at this point, with Chip and Dale along the way too, and Goofy and Max still coming along.
Yeah. And they even have their own, like Duffy and Shelley May even have their own
bicycle floats.
Yeah, they have their own little bicycle floats, but they have their own little celebration outfits too that match the overall color scheme and decor for the rest of the parks.
Yeah.
Very, very fun. Well, along with the projection show on It's a Small World, the attraction will get some new characters, which this felt like it came out of nowhere. So Disney Parks kind of snuck this in the 70th update. But Miguel and his alebrije Dante from Coco will be added to the Mexico section, along with the Marigold Bridge in the background. Disneyland 70th touches are also coming to Toy Story Midway Mania as you score points on the various carnival games. The Midway Mania one, let's start with that. Weren't you and Tag saying last week that you felt like this could go for a refresh because like the screens were seeming like there was something?
Yeah, there was it seemed like there was a bit of struggle on some of the chairs as well as the screens, and like we keep getting held at screens along the way too. But I don't know if that's necessarily related to the ride mechanics. But a touch-up's always nice, and this attraction is always so busy.
So busy, so popular. There's a little bit of concept art that shows some of the practice targets when you first start, when Woody and Buzz are making sure that you get everything lined up and can figure it out. They have the 70th logo on it. I also see like an oversized sheet that makes, because everything in the set piece is like you've been shrunk down to a toy.
Yep.
So we'll say, I don't know if it's a sticker sheet or what it is, but there's an oversized set piece that also references the 70th anniversary as well.
Totally a sticker sheet. So yeah, it's nice.
I'm curious what all this entails, because it's not just updating the screens. It looks like we're getting some updates inside for set pieces as well to represent the 70th.
And those are very vibrant 70th colors. So
something real good to aim at. So now back to It's a Small World. What's your initial thought with it's not it says it's concept art, but dang, it looks like it's a photo that was taken inside of the attraction.
It looks like a photo. I am the person who believes that we should keep adding more characters like this into It's a Small World. I think it's such a nice touch, and it gives like kids something to look for of like characters that they know and they're familiar with, especially when we get new ones mixed in. I don't feel like it takes away from the theme of the attraction or the originality that it has when we can just add nice things like this to keep on, mixing in a little bit of that story magic.
Well, and the thing they did such a good job when they first rolled this out. I know it was very controversial and people were like, they're ruining it. And I get it. Disneyland fans, myself included, get very concerned when changes are being made, especially to classic iconic attractions like It's a Small World. Because it's like, what are you doing? Like that was, it's almost like, not like it's a museum piece, but it's just something that's very unique and is almost not really kind of frozen in time, but not really. So when changes come to those, you of course we always like people just will jump to worst case, like what, like they're gonna ruin it, it's gonna be awful. Like we always forget sometimes to give grace. But what I like about this is it kind of it's nice that they gave us this concept art that very much looks like a photo, and how it's set like all the other Disney characters that they've introduced the attraction. If you didn't know that wasn't original, you wouldn't know that wasn't original. They did such a beautiful job blending in the aesthetic to make it appear like Miguel and Dante have always been there.
It could just be another figure that's in there too. If you haven't seen Coco, like it still just fits with where it is and what it is.
Yeah,
so.
It's not like it's got this big old billboard. Watch this movie.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about the Marigold Bridge. It looks
really nice. I wonder what it's going to look like, especially after doing Tiana's Bayou Adventure with the fireflies around. I wonder if we'll get a little bit of glinting light or something like that.
That's a good point.
So,
that's a great point.
But I hear what you're saying about like touching and everything, because I always think about Terry Hardin talking on the show about how we got to be careful about how many things we lose that Walt has touched.
Yeah.
But if you've heard me on Teg's other podcast, The Hub Crawl, I'm all...
You're taking down Fantasyland over at Hub Crawl.
Walt said he wanted changes. I'm just listening to the guy this is all named after. Well, 2 iconic attractions for the resort, which also double as transportation, have returned. The Disneyland Railroad rolled down the tracks again after completion of the track replacement, and the Disneyland Monorail also returned after the installation of new entrance gates at Downtown Disney. We were just like a week away from seeing them. Like, we saw the train on the tracks while we were there, and Teg was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm like, no way, not a week early.
Yeah, the thing that was kind of crazy about this is both of these attractions, they weren't being refurbished in the sense of anything that you see or experience as the guest is noticeable, because they were replacing the tracks in sections. So, okay, maybe you notice that the track, it's a little bit smoother of a ride, but it's not like...
It's not a new car.
Yeah, it's not like it's a new train or something like that. Same thing with the monorail. It's not like they rewrapped or did anything like that. This was actually down because of the new entrance and new turnstiles that they installed at the Downtown Disney entrance. The bigger thing I think that they did there was the actual gates, which they're in the process of swapping into all of the new gates that kind of have that clear plexiglass and open double doors. They have those over there now. And then the other thing too is they built kind of like an awning or a shade structure over them that is the kind of the mid-century modern vibes that we already have on that side of Downtown Disney, but they didn't get rid of the main arching shade structure that's also over the track. This is just a little structure over the gates there.
Teg laughed at me when we were talking about this. I'm like, why have we never gone into the park on the monorail? He's like, why would you go to the park on the monorail?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I should have told you.
When Vern and I were staying at the Disneyland Hotel, super slick. Obviously closer than walking all the way to the entrance gates. And the nice thing is when you hop on the monorail and enter the park through the monorail, you're getting dropped off in Tomorrowland. So if you're park opening that way, you're kind of a little bit ahead of the crowds already because you don't have to start at the, town square and make your way back to if you're going to like rope drop Space Mountain or something.
Or the Matterhorn, your prime spot.
You're basically right there. Yeah. No, it's super slick. And not the lines that you see at the turnstiles at the main gate that would be down here. I mean, with us staying at the Howard Johnson, it would be a little weird because you'd be walking past the main gates to get all the way down to the monorail. So it probably would not be shorter.
No, probably not.
But fun. It is fun. Yeah. Well, Indiana Jones turned 30 on March 3rd, and to celebrate, one of the iconic actors from the Indiana Jones movie, as well as the attraction, was on hand to ride with the cosplay group, California Jones, sign autographs for fans and cast members, and of course, take photos. John Rhys Davies, who portrayed Sala, was more than happy to spend time with fans. Later, he met up with two Imagineers who worked on the attraction, Chuck Balu, who created the Maraglyphics, and Tony Baxter, the project lead for the attraction.
This is cool because I feel like John Rhys Davies really enjoyed the role of Sala, especially coming back and doing all the attraction videos along with it, and is just like such a iconic part of the attraction experience. Like I can hear his voice so much in my head that the ride's going to be bumper.
I'm just going to say it. That's probably one of Tag and I's favorite parts of the attraction is that stupid ride spiel with Sala because it's so entertaining. I'm not saying it's better than the attraction. Don't come at me for that. But like, it's just so good. It's like Patrick at Soarin'. Like it's just, you can't imagine experiencing that attraction and not having that like safety spiel because it's just done so well. It's so in theme, and bumpy, and all the like these ingenious devices. I mean, the whole thing is so good. If you haven't ever sat there and watched it, you need to. They did bring back so that it is the full version. They had a shortened version during like COVID when you weren't just in that room as long. And honestly, with how they're doing the line, you don't really sit in that room as long as you had before. But either way, super cool.
Tag shushed us as we were walking through the Indiana Jones queue to make sure that he could hear it and we would hear it. So
see,
yeah, it's part of the experience. It's a big deal. And these outfits on the California Jones crew, so fun.
Yeah, they all are looking like Indiana Jones. I did see that there was one person who had dressed up like Sala. I don't think it's not in that photo right there.
Oh yeah,
dressed up as Sala. Super fun. I will put a link in the show notes because David from Fresh Bake somehow got in on the fun and got to do a ride around with Sala himself. The other crazy thing too was this man, John Rhys Davies, didn't just go on one ride through and like the lucky vehicle were the people he got to go, were the people that got to experience the attraction with him. Oh no. I think he went around 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
5 times because he just stayed in the vehicle and continued as people cycled through. And it was so funny to watch because he was, I'm not going to say he was in full character, but he was definitely being a character and not just an average guest. He had a flashlight and was like, pretending like he was exploring the cave as they were going around. It was so fun. So if you have a few minutes, I definitely recommend watching the video that David from Fresh Bake put out there. It's about 11 minutes, so it does kind of have some like just B-roll of them taking photos and, just going through the queue and talking or whatever. So you can skip ahead if you'd like, and you can just watch the ride through if that's what you're interested in. But yeah, super fun.
I think I need to correct you. I'm pretty sure you mean it's big fun.
Big fun. You want to know what's even better? The end of the ride that they did on that was was what it was. It was big fun for the ending with Indy. But yeah, super cool. And this was not something that Disney put together. This was totally something that this fan group and John Rhys Davies put together as so it's not like Disney invited him to celebrate the 30th, that's how we're celebrating the 30th. This was like totally fans.
Nice. fans of delicious cocktails from Trader Sam's can now make 2 of the beverages at home. The recipes for the Molten Safari and Lava Laughs have been posted over on the Disney Food blog. Molten Safari does contain alcohol, but Lava Laughs is non-alcoholic.
I don't know how I feel about these. So, fun names, of course. But reading both of these, I'm curious. They both have cinnamon syrup in them. So I'm just curious. Like, okay, so Lava Laughs. It's lime juice, grapefruit juice, pineapple juice, topped with tonic water, and there's also that cinnamon syrup in there. It's 3/4 of an ounce of the cinnamon syrup. I can't wrap my head around what this would taste like.
I don't know if I can either. Like, that's a lot of interesting things going together. Mm-hmm. Very refreshing. But at the same time with the cinnamon, that's very curious.
Yeah, it throws me off. Maybe one of these nights we'll have to, I don't know where one procures cinnamon syrup from, but if we figure that out, maybe we'll have to have our own Trader Sam's night here at the DL Weekly podcast space and try these out for ourselves.
Let's be honest. If anyone can figure that out amongst our group, it's producer Vern.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, that's true. If not, maybe we can't. Maybe it's something that we can make, but I'm just wildly curious about this.
Well,
the refurbishment for the Jolly Holiday on Main Street is chugging along. However, this week, the old LED popcorn light sign was replaced with a plain black lit sign. The LED version did frequently have issues.
Yes.
However, we're still going to miss it because I felt it was very iconic. Seeing the new sign it breaks my heart a little bit. It's going to take some time to get used to it.
This is maybe where James goes against his norm and says, I'm sad that's gone too. I loved how charming it was with the lights flickering in the sense that it was. And it was such a nice touch at the end of Main Street and how it looked. It'll be what it is.
It's going to take some time.
Yep. Hey, but at least that means we are probably closer to getting your soup and sandwich back.
That's true. The one thing, though, like that the new sign just does not have, it lacks depth. I think that's what's so cool about the popcorn lighting type signs is it feels like there's layers to it.
Absolutely.
Versus just a flat old sign. Maybe there's going to be some really cool lighting effect on the back side that we can't see and that we'll see at night. Wishful thinking maybe, but I don't know. With Imagineering, I always feel like they usually don't, it feels like something like this, they usually don't backstep too much on. Mm-hmm. So I feel like maybe this is just temporary, or maybe there's something else to this that we just don't know or can see yet. But it's just hard for me to think that they're making this more boring and less charming.
Jolly.
Yeah, less jolly. Less jolly than it was. But maybe they are. I could be totally wrong here. We'll see. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Well, the latest Disneyland After Dark event took place last week. 90s Night featured a cavalcade of characters from the 90s parades, like The Lion King, Aladdin, Mulan, and Hercules. Other 90s characters were out and about, like Monterey Jack and Fat Cap from Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and Clopin from The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I heard mixed reviews. The biggest negative of 90s Night was the folks that went on the first night. They had kind of like when we went to Star Wars night, they ended up having super popular characters. It was all the ducks. So like Darkwing Duck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And Huey, Dewey, and Louie. But they had the ducks were all meeting and greeting in the Fantasyland Theater. And it ended up being so popular they had to start issuing wristbands. But communication didn't go out that if you wanted to meet those characters, you needed to do the wristband. So it was kind of a last minute switch up. So a lot of people got upset because they unknowingly missed their chance to be able to meet those characters. Night 2, because they only did 2 nights of the 90s Night, they ended up doing more of like an Oogie Boogie style where you just would walk past the characters.
It was like a wave and play or something, I think they called it.
Yeah, which honestly, actually, I think they shifted and did that for Queen Amidala, because we had that situation where you had to get a wristband if you wanted to see Queen Amidala, and
That ate up like 2 hours of our night.
It was a very long, because of course, while you're waiting, the queen needed to go take, some breaks and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very, we were committed.
We were. But that was such a downer of an experience. So if people are doing that, and it's like such a great thing for the ducks that never show up.
Yeah.
Like, of course you're going to spend the time to do this.
I want to say, I think Scrooge was one too that you had mentioned, but yeah. So it was super cool to be able to meet these. I just would have loved to have met Darkwing Duck. All the ducks,
so cool.
that would have been so cool. So that was a little not great, but again, they pivoted. The next time it was, the walk by thing. Honestly, I think for all of these after hours things, they should just shift to that more, walk by meet and greet thing. You can still get your photos taken, but the first rendition of it, there were backdrops, PhotoPass photographers were taking your photos. So it was a little, I could see how that'd be more time consuming. Yeah. So there's that. The other cool thing too, though, we were talking earlier about like, I can't believe they hung on to these things. That's what I felt like when I saw this 90s night cavalcade, because it had characters and costumes from these parades back in the 90s. Now, I don't know if they were the originals, if they were up, I don't know anything about that, but it was, they basically kind of sort of brought these parades back to life. Now, Tag would be able to talk at great length about these parades, because I believe he was able to see, I know he's talked about the Lion King parade for sure. Yep. And I think he's talked about the Aladdin one as well.
He was definitely in the parks in the 90s. So, yep.
I don't know if I remember him ever talking about the Hercules one, but 2 of the 3, he for sure, we just mentioned, he for sure got to experience.
That is definitely one that he wouldn't have had excitement for, because he hadn't seen Hercules the film until the past 5 years or something, when I finally
and Mulan, that was
sat
the other
him down.
one.
Yeah.
But these parades were used as like synergy and promotion for these films.
Which is great.
The thing that's super cool, fun fact, the Lion King parade had these amazing floats with like animatronics on the floats. Those floats still exist.
Oh my gosh.
You can see them if you go to the Animal Kingdom and go to the Lion King show that's in that pavilion. They use those floats or parts of the floats. I don't know if it's like, but yeah, those floats have been reincarnated and they are still alive.
I didn't know that. That show is really fun to watch.
Fun fact. I know, I felt like, so Ordinary Adventures was able to go and they were talking about that. They're like, oh, those floats were so cool. Like, and they said something about how like, oh, they've probably been destroyed by now. And I was like, no, wait, I know this. So yeah, so very, very cool.
I'm not even in Trivia Land and I'm learning stuff.
Yeah, not even in Trivia Land, and there's more things to learn. You just never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Clopin from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, such rare, bizarre characters that they had for this night. Love it.
Yoo-hoo! Hello, everybody! It's me, Heimlich. My stomach is so empty. Hey, help me to go find something to eat. Come on, everybody. Here we go.
Well, this week for Snack Chat, it wouldn't be Snack Chat if we didn't have another foodie guide to talk about.
And you're here for this one.
And I'm here for this one. Finally. Yes. I was joking that I was very fortunate that I've missed out so many foodie guides, because then I wasn't tempted. Well, here we are. And Tag and I's trip falls probably just after all of these go away. So I'm just going to be tempted again. So what do we have coming for the season of the Force, James?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. And there's so much because I actually haven't looked at this foodie guide yet. So we're getting live reactions. So exciting. All right. So starting at Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo, we have through May 11th, starting March 28th, Dewback chili noodles and fried chicken bows.
So I can actually talk about one of these. The fried chicken bao they had, I believe, last year for the first time. And I did try these. I loved them. The only thing that I was not a fan of, I'm not a dark meat chicken person, and it was fried chicken thighs. Mm-hmm. I assumed it'd be like a chicken tender or something like that. I don't like it's a me thing. It's the consistency of dark is just, not my thing. But other than that, the sauce, the slaw, the flavor, the bao, nice and soft. Really, really well done. It was one of those, I could make an exception for it to be a thigh, but it would have been better if it was like a chicken tender.
Yeah, I can hear you on that. So both these look good, and I have high expectations at Docking Bay 7, so I feel like we're going to live up to that, and that's good.
Over at the milk stand, you can have the Toydaria swirl, which is green milk with chili lime seasoning and mango popping spheres.
Toydaria, of course, Watto's home planet, for those trying to figure that one out. So
see, look, I'm learning new things too. We're not even in Trivia Land yet.
Finally in my domain. Oh, that takes us to Oga's Cantina, where we have two new options. The Netragale Ale, which is a white Wampa ale with apple cider and cherry puree. That one comes out on March 28th. And then the High Republic. It's silver tequila, triple sec, lime juice, and pure cane and habanero lime syrups topped with red wine.
Interesting.
Oh, wow, that's a combination.
Okay, we need to talk about this for a second. Oga's Obsession. That's one thing that Tag very much enjoys, and I think we've gotten every time we've gone to Oga's since the beginning.
I fully believe that.
But it's different. It doesn't say new, because I thought it was blue. And I'm confused because I'm reading what the description is. It's Minute Maid Lemonade, wild strawberry flavor, yogurt-filled popping spheres. I definitely don't remember yogurt-filled popping spheres. And strawberry and grape candy pebbles with a bursting dried fruit mixture. I remember the topping, but I'm confused by the color, the flavor, and yogurt popping spheres. They were popping spheres. Someone needs to tell me.
Oga just has a new obsession.
I think so, but it doesn't say new. So I'm like, when did this change happen? How were we not aware?
Right.
We got to try the new version.
I think you might. So,
well, Ronto Roasters, yum. That's all I gotta say. These look delicious. What are we looking at, James?
We got a fried falumpasset cheese skewer with crispy potato and mustard cheese dipping sauce, which is super fascinating because the fried meat, I would guess, maybe, or the potato is on the outside of the skewer.
Yeah, I think those are like potato chunks. So I think it's like a cheese stick dipped in like batter and then rolled in like potato cubes and then fried.
Yep.
Oh,
totally.
This is wild. It looks otherworldly too.
It really does. And then also there's the Kashian spiced milk tea, a milk tea, horchata jelly, and caramel sugar crisp. That one's non-alcoholic.
Yes, that sounds delicious. And this is interesting. The cold blue black calf is coming to Ronto Roasters. Late night only, of course. That is the infamous cold brew of Star Wars Land or Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Typically, you can only get it at Docking Bay, though. So I like that they, at least short term, will have it available at a second location as well.
I think it's interesting that it's on late night menu only.
It's to help power you through.
Perfect time for a calf, right?
Yeah,
so
help powering you through.
My gosh.
So heading on over to outside of Galaxy's Edge, outside of Batu. Yep, going off planet. There you go. Galactic Grill. We're going to have the Galactic Euro Burger, which sounds very yummy. It's an Angus beef and vegetable patty, Havarti cheese slice, feta tzatziki sauce, cucumber, tomato, and red onion, served on a toasted ciabatta bun.
I love me some tzatziki sauce, so this is fascinating. The other options that are new here, there's the Loaded Outpost fries with onion rings, barbecue pulled pork, cheddar, more cheese, pickled red onions, roasted corn, sour cream, and green onions. That is a pile.
Yes, it is. That's definitely shareable.
Yeah, it screams like nachos to me for sure.
For dessert, there's the pistachio cherry parfait, which of course is layers of pistachio mousse, red velvet cake, cherry pie filling, chocolate pearls, and chocolate popping spheres.
That is so green.
It doesn't really look appetizing because it's like a swamp green for the pistachio mousse, but the flavors sound delightful together. So they just made it look a little funny.
Yep.
Which also, the next one I think looks weird too. What is this? Passion fruit limeade? Because it's ginger and passion fruit syrups and lime juice garnished with fresh passion fruit and chia seeds. So it kind of looks, what is that? You're the Star Wars person. Dagobah, right? Is the swamp planet?
Yeah.
It's giving me Dagobah.
Yep. Or even like the murky water of the trash chute.
Oh, yes. Oh, that too. However, the flavors sound like they'd be really, really good together.
They do.
So,
They really do.
looks can be deceiving. Ooh. This also looks interesting. We have a Pico punch. Is that how you say that? Pico punch?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Pico punch, pineapple juice, coconut milk. Oh, yeah, Pico, like pineapple, coconut. Pineapple juice, coconut milk, and lime juice garnished with pineapple chunks and a lotus root. That, like, okay. If
the color is awesome.
If blue milk didn't exist already, this looks like blue milk.
It does. Which is interesting because it's like pineapple juice and coconut milk.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Obviously, and a little bit of blue food coloring. Churros, we have a sour blue raspberry churro and a spiced red cinnamon churro that you can go get near Buzz Lightyear Astro Blaster. So you can have a red lightsaber or a blue lightsaber.
And the pretzel cart's bringing back the Pika pretzel with the cream cheese filled pretzel, Terra sweetened condensed milk, topped with chocolate creme cookie crumbles.
There's all sorts of treats coming to the Grand Californian Great Hall cart. It looks like these are all ones that they've had before. We've got the Wookiee cookie, a tropical whoopie pie, a Star Wars sugar cookie, pretzel lightsabers, Millennium Falcon chocolate lollipop. I see a little Grogu macaron. Yum.
Yep.
This is wild. Have you looked at the different novelties, aka sippers,
I am
popcorn
seeing
buckets?
them for the first time. And
what are your first thoughts?
Wow. Okay, that Death Star popcorn bucket feels so extra.
It has tons of little, I'm going to assume LED light, like the whole thing lights up to the point that like there's all these little pinpoint little lights in there. This is like next level popcorn bucket.
Yep, that is wild. If you're ready to carry around that giant sphere, it looks like it does have a little lanyard that you can try to carry it on your neck.
We also have a coaxium sipper. Did you see that?
I'm loving the look of this one. So
I just very, very well done.
Yep, feels perfect to drop in, especially with Smugglers Run and everything going on there.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, and you can get that at Docking Bay and then Ronto Roaster. So it makes total sense that you can get that back in Galaxy's Edge.
Sure does.
We have some, I feel bad because they are exciting, but it doesn't feel as exciting. We have a Yoda stainless steel tumbler that has a nice graphic of Yoda on one side, and then the opposite side has other favorite Jedi. It's hard. I feel like they should have started with that one in here.
And not led with the Death Star.
Yeah, I don't think they should have led with the Death Star and the coaxium sipper, but anyways, so you can get your stainless steel tumbler, multiple locations throughout the Disneyland Resort.
Yep. Further down, we get the Mythosaur mug, which you get with some of that Netrigale ale. This is the symbol of the Mandalorians.
It looks so good. Yeah. It's like a Star Wars tiki mug is how we're going to describe that.
Great description.
So good. This is so fun. I don't know why, but I found this hilarious. We have lightsaber swizzle sticks. So there's a Skywalker and a Darth Vader version. So of course we have blue and red versions, but it's like a mini lightsaber that you put in your drink, and like a swizzle stick is like a stir stick. So it's just there to be fun. Like it's not like, kind of looks like a straw. It's not a straw. It's just,
stir your slushie.
It's so the Force can be with your slushie.
Yep.
But they're so fun. I think this would be fun, especially for like kids.
Yeah.
To like get them a slushie, and then they also get like a little toy.
It's something new and different, and I appreciate that when we're talking merch.
It's something that you can do a little bit more with than say like a straw clip thing, which are adorable too. But yeah, I think this is kind of ridiculous, but also hilarious and fun.
Yep. As if we didn't have enough buckets with just everyone wanting the Death Star one, we've got the Tauntaun bucket, the
so good
beast of burden from the ice planet of Hoth that carried people around. It has this gooberish, adorable look on its face that I can't stop looking at. It's
very, very cute. And again, just in case you needed more fun things to add to your collection, we have a new Jawa sipper. Again, available various locations around the resort. This is good. Like it looks like I don't know, like an action figure or something.
Does, yeah.
There's such good detailing on it. And yeah, again, the fact that this is the intent of this is to be a drink beverage holder.
Yep.
And the detailing on it's just crazy.
Here we are, yep.
Oh, one last popcorn bucket, James.
Not available until May the 4th, though. We've got the salvaged Clone Trooper bucket, the nice white head with the blue line painted down the middle. And this one's got a limit of 2 per person, so they're expecting hot business with this one.
Yes, they are. We'll skip ahead. We did get a sneak peek also at the Disneyland After the Dark Star Wars Night foodie guide. Some things to look forward to is there's a Wookiee whoopie pie that you can find at Alien Pizza Planet. Pineapple and ube crescent sundae over at the Tropical Hideaway. Okay, both of those things look delicious. Bronto Roasters has a new plant-based wrap for the party. It's the Loomis wrap. And what else do we have? We've got Hungry Bear Jamboree. You can get blue raspberry lemonade, which has a little like the frog on top.
It's a gummy frog.
Yeah,
on
it's
top.
a gummy frog on top with like green popping spheres to look like the eggs, and it's glowing. So that makes me think of the Mandalorian.
Yep.
And then there's also, porg belly sandwich.
It looks so good.
I couldn't. I don't think I could have that one.
It looks so
Those
good.
poor porgs.
That looks like a really good pork belly.
How many porgs had to
That's a
meet
lot
their
of porgs.
maker for this sandwich? Porgs aren't very big, and that's a lot of meat.
That's a lot. So,
But yeah, very, very fun. So can't wait to see these all materialize in the parks. If you have a chance to try any of them, let us know your thoughts, if it was worth it or if it's a skip it. And best of luck to everyone trying to get these sippers sippers and popcorn buckets, because man, oh man, they are going to be popular. Well, it's that time again. We are hosting our public live stream this Sunday. Be sure to join us on our YouTube channel at 5:30 p.m. Disneyland time.
DLWeekly announces the boarding of the Trivia Express, non-stop star speeder service to the moon of Endor. All passengers, please prepare for immediate boarding.
Welcome to Trivia Land, where we have some awesome listener-submitted questions all ready for you. Teresa, James, are you ready for these awesome questions?
I'm feeling pretty confident because James is visiting from the other side of Trivia Land, so we're gonna use that to our advantage.
always a good idea, and it's always fun to be on the other side because I know soon enough I'll be back over there asking the questions.
Yep.
But either way, it's fun for me.
All right. Well, let's see how it goes for you. Your first listener-submitted question tonight from listener Dave M. Which James Bond movie references Disneyland?
Oh, Dave. I am learning one new thing at least tonight because I have no idea.
See, this is fun. I don't know this, but my dad and my brother are huge James Bond fans. Like, absolutely love it. Watch all of it. It's on my list of potential things of when I feel like binging a series of movies to start those again, just to watch through it. But I have no idea which one would reference it. I don't imagine it's one of the newer ones, so I would guess it's something back in the day, but that doesn't really help me too much.
That's better than I'm sitting here trying to think if I can even. I'm a terrible James Bond person as far as like now. I don't even think I could tell you a name of a movie.
Well, you got your recent ones with
Was
Daniel Craig.
007 one?
No, that's
Okay,
just
so
his
no.
call sign.
Then never mind.
You got the Daniel Craig ones with Casino Royale, Spectre, Quantum of Solace,
Yeah, nope.
Skyfall.
Nope.
Then there's the Pierce Brosnan ones, which is the James Bond I grew up with and enjoy the most. And that was GoldenEye, Die Another Day, The World Is Not Enough. I don't know if he did a fourth one now that I'm thinking about this, but those were good. But then you run into a bunch of random ones because you got Dr. No, You Only Live Twice, Goldfinger, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, I'll go with Goldfinger.
Diamonds Are Forever, Moonraker, Octopussy. I'm doing pretty good on the list, I feel like, but that's not convincing me on any of these.
I'm going with Goldfinger.
I like where you're going. Part of me says I should just embrace the gold theme and say The Man with the Golden Gun.
There you go.
Because I have no better explanation. So let's do it. Put me down for The Man with the Golden Gun.
All right.
Okay. So, Goldfinger and Man with the Golden Gun. Final answers?
Yeah, lock it in. Who knew I was going to talk so much James Bond on this podcast this week?
Who knew?
All right. right. Here, second listener submitted question from listener Ryan J. How many chanting tiki masks are there in the enchanted tiki room?
Oh, what a good question.
Just to be clear, that's like the masks that are on the totems on the wall and like the drummers and stuff.
Just the masks on the totems, not the drummers.
Okay, thank you.
Because the drummers are the drummers.
The pillars,
the masks
though, right?
are the masks.
Well, that checks out. Yeah, the pillars.
Okay, so let's think. There's one.
Are there four pillars?
No, there's like 2 per side.
Oh, right.
So 2, 4, 6. There's 8, and then it's like it's.
Is it 3 masks per tower, or is it 4?
But then each tower is like double-sided because one faces like the middle.
One faces the middle, one faces out. Are you sure it's 8 and not just 4? It might be 8 now that you're saying that.
Because I think it's each corner. Because the tiki room's like this.
Yeah, it's like the plus sign in the middle there.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure each corner, right, is like, well, I guess maybe it's just wrapped. Is why I think that.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Because I think you get into weird spots otherwise, especially with like the door.
Yeah, like 8 sides, but 4 pillars. Does that make sense?
I feel like you have too many masks because there's one that would face against the wall, right? So you do you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
4.
Like this.
8.
I think like 1, 2.
Yeah.
Per corner.
3,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
okay.
8 total.
Yeah. All right. So Teresa's showing me corners and 90-degree angles that work together to make 2 sides per thing. So 8. I think we're in agreement with 8.
So do we think there's 5, like 3 and 2?
Like 3 on one side, 2 on the other?
So they're offset of each other?
I think that's too few. I would have said 4 and 3 if we're going offset. But part of me says they're probably the same. And so my gut says 3 per spot. So I'm thinking 24 with that math. We only got to do this once when we were on our last trip, so didn't have time to count all the birds and everything.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 20 because I'm thinking I'm going to go with 20.
All right.
Okay, so James is saying 24 and Teresa's saying 20.
Yep.
All right, final answers.
That's what we believe is in the tiki room.
Got it. All right. Your third listener submitted question from listener Donna S. I know this is going to be a little out of season, but I'm asking it anyway.
Great.
Who was the first person to narrate the candlelight processional?
Oh, I think it was it Walt? I'm going with Walt.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty good guess. Would Walt want to put himself in the spotlight like that for this kind of event?
That's true too.
It feels like a very good guess, though. 'Cause I don't know if I can come up with anyone better. I don't imagine. I mean, it could just be like a local celebrity at the time,
it could
too.
be like, I don't know, the mayor of Anaheim or,
Yeah, that would probably make a lot of sense. Maybe his favorite Imagineer.
Oh, now who's that? Now you set yourself up.
I'm not giving that answer.
That's the answer. It's just Walt's favorite Imagineer.
Yeah, clearly. That gives me a lot of people on this list. No, I can't say that.
Imagineer.
Even I don't want to cheat that much in Trivia Land. Gosh. You know what? I'm just gonna go. Oh, okay. You're saying Walt. I'll say Roy.
Roy.
I don't think I'm right, but I like our themed pair guesses.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so Roy and Walt, final answers.
Final.
Not good ones.
Now I have a tickle that maybe it was like the mayor, but we locked in with Walt.
All right. And your fourth and final regular round question from listener Nicholas E. What year did the Disneyland Hotel officially get its own monorail station?
Welcome back, monorail.
That's a great question, Vern.
It's a great question, Nicholas.
And Nicholas.
All right, Teresa, walk through it. When did the monorail get built? And
but they added the station because it wasn't there originally.
Right. Does it come into play when like Disney themselves took over the hotel?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's a book very close by that I can see right there that has it in there because it is the history of the Disneyland Hotel.
Oh, it's so close.
It's right there. I can't quite touch it.
Just soak it in.
Yeah.
Use that osmosis.
Because what was it? 58, right? That monorail opened.
All right. So if you think it's a little later than that, I will just go with 1966. Because that's as good of a guess as I'm going to give. I'm going to die when you say like 84 seems more correct.
No, because now I'm trying to remember because I'm thinking of different like photos and stuff that I've seen. Walt was still alive, I think, for the expansion. So that's what I'm like now stuck.
Okay.
I'm going to go 64.
All right. You got that, Vern?
All right, 1966 and 1964. Final
65.
answers?
Yes, final answers.
And we're hoping we're right together.
All right. And your bonus question tonight from 8-year-old Siriana.
Mm-hmm.
At which Disney location can you make your own ears? Now, hint, not the plush-on headband ears that you can build at Disney Springs. We want the better ones.
Girl after my own heart. Because I thought of the correct answer, the non-plush location answer,
wow.
first.
Is it in California or is it in Florida or is it both?
The specific location I was thinking of is Disneyland.
Okay.
On Main Street.
Where can you build
So I'll give you a
ears?
hint.
I have to assume it's the Mad Hatter then on Main Street. I'm very happy to be wrong with this one because I have no idea.
I'm saying it's the opposite end of Main Street and what is it called? Holiday Point? What's the holiday shop?
Is it Plaza Point?
Maybe it used to be called Plaza Point, but it's Holiday something now.
The shop where you can always find winter holidays.
Yep. That shop. So it's the one that's opposite from Coke Corner.
Yep.
Dang, now I feel like a fake fan not knowing what. But they customize your ears there, so they like write on them.
Okay.
Like they do ornaments.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that is good logic.
That's my answer, the holiday shop, which I'm very upset that I don't remember the name of it right now.
Shame.
So you're going with the holiday shop.
Yeah.
All right. And James, you gonna wear that headband with her?
Oh no, I'll stick with the Mad Hatter. I will ride my probably incorrect answer with Teresa's confidence.
Right. I missed that. I apologize.
That's
Mad Hatter.
That's
for
okay.
James.
Yep. To be clear, the one on Main Street, not the one by Alice.
Yes,
Why we have two of the same name.
Yep, Main Street Mad Hatter. All right. Locking those in. All righty. Well, listeners, how did you do listening at home? How do you feel James and Teresa did? If you stick around until after the discussion, we can all find out together.
Well, this week for our discussion topic, we are talking with author of the book, The Wisdom of Walt, and I read his newsletter every single week that he puts out, and I recommend that you sign up for it too. It's pretty awesome. And we, of course, are talking with Jeff Barnes, a.k.a. Dr. Disneyland. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Absolutely thrilled to be with you guys this week. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Fun story. We actually first met and saw Jeff at a Disney Anna event, which we love that event. You're actually getting recognized for an award that evening, too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that's coming up on almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love Disney Anna events, and that was a fun night. It was cool to be honored. And, it's been a crazy ride. I've been doing this almost 10 years now. And, you have this idea, you've got this crazy dream, you get started, and you don't know where life's going to take you. And I've been very fortunate, very blessed.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of get to the beginnings of that. Can you tell us about your Disney story? Just what got you interested in Disney, either the man, the company, or the land?
Well, funny enough, my Disneyland story starts in August of 1988, and I absolutely hated it.
Oh,
My first trip to Disneyland was miserable. I knew nothing about the original park. I'd been in California about 3 years at that point, and the newest, latest, greatest was Star Tours, which had been advertised relentlessly. So I walk in about 11 o'clock in the morning. It's summertime, so of course it's crowded. I've missed rope drop, which of course I know nothing about, by like 3 hours. And I head off into Tomorrowland, and I'm looking for Star Tours. And I asked a cast member, hey, where is this newest, latest, greatest attraction? And the good news is I was in the right place for the ride, wrong place for the line. I then get redirected to the very end of Main Street and end up waiting more than 3 hours for my very first Disneyland attraction. I hate lines. I've never lost my patience because you can't lose what you do not have. And by the time we got off of Star Tours, it's even more crowded. It's even hotter because, again, it's an afternoon in August. By the time we left that night, if you had told me I'd be doing what I'm doing now 35 years later, I would have said that you were crazy and had absolutely lost your mind. But I stayed in California long enough to realize this place means something to the locals. And I had grown up in the panhandle of Florida and had gone to Walt Disney World. And I loved World as a kid. That's back when it was only Magic Kingdom, but not in the way that locals love Disneyland here in California. And I think part of my disappointment in Disneyland was I was so underwhelmed by how much smaller land is in comparison to World. So I stayed in California long enough to like really get super curious. And, Walt would go on to talk about, what does it take to be successful? And he would talk about mastering 4 C's. One of those C's was curiosity, which is really the only one of the 4 C's that I actually have. I'm insatiably curious. And so I'm like, well, why does everyone else love it? And I had this awful experience. And so I got super curious and started researching Walt, discovered he wasn't born successful, who is, difficult relationship with his father, more failures than successes, to include being bankrupt at age 21, losing his first successful cartoon character, no one believing in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and his own wife and his own brother being out on him building Disneyland when he was 53 years old. And I just fell in love with that story. And I fell in love with the idea that he didn't want to just build an amusement park, but he wanted to build a park that told stories. So when I returned with a group of young people in 1991, I fell in love with the park, but more importantly, I fell in love with Walt's story and the stories that the park tells. And I've always been very passionate about what it takes for people to be successful in their own life and to change their own life and their own story. And I started realizing, wow, we love Disney. What if we didn't just consume the park? What if we could use the park itself to level up in our own life and in our own story? And that sort of became the genesis of a book idea, what would years down the road become a college course idea, and really what I do full time now, which is writing and speaking on Walt's legacy, but how that legacy can help you in your own life, your own story, and your own business.
What a great story. Most people I feel like would have had a bad experience like that and been like, I'm never going back there, and just no. I know some people in my personal life that talked about how they don't like going to the parks because they're like, I don't like crowds, I don't like the heat, I don't like spending money, it's just not a place for me, and they just are against it. So I got to give you some props for being curious about it and giving it a second chance and realizing the truth, which is that a lot of people, especially in Southern California, really hold the park in a very special place for a lot of people. And so it is more than just, a place to go ride rides or eat food or watch a show. It's something more.
And I think here in Southern California, it's the only town or common square that we have with 25 million people here in Southern California, because everyone is from everywhere else. And so it's the only shared space that we all have in common. And there's really only 2 things that we care about. We care about In-N-Out Burger and we care about Disneyland. And everything else is up for grabs. And so, there's something sacred about those acres in Anaheim that, we do genuinely care about. And I love converting the people who say, oh, I don't like it, it's too much money. I don't like crowds. And that was true in my college courses. My favorite students were the students in my history classes who hated history. Because I was like, you don't hate history. You've just only had bad history teachers.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
hate Disneyland. You've just had bad people that you've gone to Disney with.
So you converted some people, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's go to our next question here before we can get into the good meat of everything, which is when you go to Disneyland on the first day of a visit or any visit, which way do you go? Do you go left towards Adventureland, through the castle to Fantasyland, right towards Tomorrowland? And we have to add on, because this has become a big thing, which tunnel do you go into? Do you enter in the right side of the train tunnel, left side?
So I love this question. And I love it if for no other reason. It's a question that I would ask my college students when I taught history of Disneyland. And I didn't realize when I asked it that this was a question that went down to family traditions. And arguments would break out in class because some families had the tradition of entering in through the tunnel on the right. Other families had the tradition of entering through the, tunnel on the left. I'm a right tunnel person. I like to go through on the right, mainly because I probably have to go to the bathroom by the time we get off the bus and do the parking lot and security and all of that. And I prefer the bathroom next to the old Bank of America there on Main Street, what is now the Disney Gallery. I probably also go through the right if for no other reason. We were often giving personal tours. And I like to point out the very first building ever constructed for any Disney park anywhere in the world, which is the Main Street Opera House, which is right there on the right as you come into the park. So yeah, I'm a enter in through the right and exit out through the left. It's not a sacred thing, but that just tends to be the way that we tend to do it.
And then which way do you go in the park?
Oh, we tend to go into Fantasyland or Tomorrowland first.
That's nice. We don't get a lot of Fantasyland. We get a ton of, like Teresa and I, Adventureland's kind of the way we go. And some people, they do the Space Mountain thing. They go to Tomorrowland.
Right.
But not very often do we get people that go back through Fantasyland. Although we've had
It's a good place to start, though.
decent amount of people who have been going through Frontierland to go to Galaxy's Edge is kind of like a thing that they do now. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but back in the old Fast Pass days, and boy, do I miss the old Fast Pass days.
Yes.
You could crush every single attraction in Fantasyland and then start hitting your Fast Pass attractions around 9:15, 9:30. So I still sort of have that habit in me. So you could hit Peter Pan and, if you were really fast and really good, be on and off that by 8:10, 8:15, and then still do Alice and the Teacups and Dumbo and Casey. I love all of those original old style Fantasyland attractions. And, you can hit those, pretty quick. And even now with Genie Plus or Lightning Lane or Multi-Lane, I haven't checked today if Disney's changed the name of it in the last 24 hours. Who knows? But by and large, those attractions aren't attached to any of that. So even if you're paying for front of the line pass, it still is in your best interest to hit those in the first hour because you're not going to have quick access to them otherwise. So I love going through Fantasyland in the first hour because it's the quickest way to get through it. And I still love those attractions. And again, when I would teach history of Disneyland and bring college students, none of them had ever been for rope drop, and most of them had never been on some of those original smaller dark ride attractions.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They probably think like kids rides, right?
They do, and they were enthralled. They simple stuff like the Alice in Wonderland attraction, which I think is incredibly underrated, or the Casey Jr. attraction, which goes all the way back to 1955, or even making them ride one of the horse attractions down Main Street. Those are the things that I think make Disneyland a park. Most of them, would show up at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and, do Space Mountain and Indiana Jones, the big e-ticket stuff. And, they really got to experience the park in a completely different way and view it through a completely different lens, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of attractions, what is your favorite attraction? Now, even though this is a Disneyland podcast, you can pick any from any of the Disney parks around the world.
Space Mountain. Space Mountain at Disneyland.
It's vastly different at the other parks. It's the same,
It is,
but also not the same at all.
Yeah, and I will be transparent. This is the number one issue in my marriage with Lindsay because she prefers Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World.
Oh.
But I love Space Mountain at Disneyland. To me, that's when I know I'm home. That's when I know I'm at Disneyland. And I don't even necessarily think it's the best attraction. I think Indiana Jones is a better attraction, or even Rise of the Resistance is a better attraction. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what really hits me emotionally and says I'm home, and what I have ridden the most, and what I missed when I was banned from being able to do thrill rides for 2 years twice, was Space Mountain. So that one just really, really resonates with me.
That's a wonderful and beautiful way to say it, that it's more of the emotional ties and not just the technical aspects of it. Because, yeah, you're right. It's just what is the attraction that you just... That's the one that like summarizes your experience. Because you're right, there are amazing attractions. So sometimes for people, it is hard to pick one because you're thinking of like, well, this one's amazing and that one's got this, all the great aspects and blah, 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 all this stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's 100%.
Yeah, if I were to take someone to Disney and try to blow them away with what Disney can do, I'd put them on Indy or Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
But in terms of like bringing out the 8-year-old kid in me, just throw me on Space Mountain.
I will say, we just got back. We have an exchange student that we took. It actually was on the last episode of this podcast talking about his experience. And I was worried because he's 16 and a boy. And I'm like, okay, I know what's going to happen. He's going to like California Adventure best, which was true. He does like California Adventure better because of the more thrill rides, and he liked a lot of the thrill rides, but he did put Soarin' on his list, which was cool. And he did talk about, when we talked about the rides in Fantasyland, he liked Alice in Wonderland. He thought it was cool that you got to go outside. Our last ride of the entire trip, we waited for... Teresa can't believe that I did this. We waited 45 minutes for Casey Jr. because it was the one last thing on the list of like we have to do this with him that we hadn't done the whole trip. And so we waited 45 minutes because they only had the one train going. But I love Casey Jr. I think it's super fun. Teresa thinks I'm nuts, but
I like it, but I would not wait 45 minutes.
Well, we didn't know it was going to be.
Yeah, I don't know that I would wait 45 minutes. And that line can be deceiving, especially if you don't know that there's only one train running. But see, this is what I think is missing in Magic Kingdom. It's the heart of what Walt wanted, i.e. a place where parents and children can have fun together.
Yeah.
And when you don't have Storybook Land Canal Boats, and when you don't have Casey Jr., and when you're missing Mr. Toad and Pinocchio and Snow White, when you're missing those dark rides, you're missing that vision that Walt had. And so, yeah, I love Disneyland, and I love our Fantasyland far more than what we get to experience when we go to Florida. And so I love that you got to experience that with your 16-year-old foreign exchange student, because you're doing what Walt originally envisioned way back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. Well, so I got to ask you a question then. You're talking about Walt's original vision for things. What do you think about them getting rid of Rivers of America in Magic Kingdom?
Ooh, I hate it. And I get as long as there's imagination left in the world, Disneyland or Disney parks will never be complete, right? I suspect that it is true that has to do with the waterway connection to Seven Seas Lagoon, and that there's an infrastructure issue, and it's easier or less expensive to replace everything and give us something new than to spend all that money and restore it back to what we already have. Doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with it. I get it, because if you look at the numbers, I can't tell you the last time I rode the Liberty Bell. I can't tell you the last time I was out on Tom Sawyer Island. I can tell you that aesthetically, those are views that I always take in when I am on Splash Mountain or Tiana's Bayou or Big Thunder Mountain or walking around a Haunted Mansion, Like there's a value there that you can't pick up just from the turnstile numbers. And my concern is that we're going to lose a value that can't be picked up in the turnstile.
No, that's a really good point. That's
Yeah.
a really great point. Because
Yeah.
actually thinking of that, like the mansion almost looks like even creepier and eerier when you're looking at it across the water. Now you're going to be
absolutely.
looking at it. You might not even have that view to look at it across from something, because who knows what buildings or rides or attractions or
Right.
whatever is going to be.
Yeah.
In that
And I
case
think
instead.
there's, and I try to give Disney the benefit of the doubt, but go back to the D23 presentation when it was announced that we're going to get Villains Land, which was like really cool, rah, rah, rah. And then it was announced that Cars was coming to Florida, and everyone was like, oh, yay, rah, rah, right? And what did Walt say? In Florida, we're going to have what we never had in California, the blessing of size.
Yeah.
Well, nobody had a clue what that was going to cost, i.e., Disney was smart enough to not say from the stage, and oh, by the way, we're gutting, right, the rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island in order to give you Cars.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's an infrastructure issue that I've heard about, maybe you've heard about it as well, that's driving this. But again, if Disney wanted to spend the money to fix it, they could. They don't want, like, if they're going to spend that money, they want to get something different out of it. And I don't know.
That's fair. So let's go. Okay, so we've gotten through our first questions here. Let's kind of go back to the beginning. So you went to Disneyland, you kind of learned a little bit about Walt, you kind of, went back and kind of had a change of heart about Disneyland.
And got inspired.
So what got you from that to, because it was the book that came before the class, or did the class come before the book?
The class came before the book. So here's what happened. I come back from that second trip in June of 1991. And I started telling people in my circle, I'm going to write a Disneyland book one day. I had absolutely no clue what that meant. And I certainly had no clue like how that would happen, when that would happen. Absolutely no idea. And every now and again, I would, try to write something down. I still would come across like little scraps of, here's Jeff trying to write a book on Disney. I mean, I literally had like zero clue about any of this. And in between, I get into higher education, and I moved to Arizona, and I'm there for 9 years. I'm in Hawaii for a couple of years. And then I come to a new university here in Southern California, and I start working. I'm Dean of Student Success, Professor of Humanities at California Baptist University in Riverside, and I'm working with struggling students. Well, meanwhile, I'm one of those annoying annual pass holders. And I'm like going to Disney over and over and over and over and over again. And I realized, well, the students that I'm working with, the problem isn't that they can't do the work. The problem is they're not showing up to do the work. And again, the one thing we all have in common is we love Disney. What if I could use this class to inspire these struggling students to see their own goals and dreams come true? And so I pitched History of Disneyland as a class as Dean of Student Success, Professor of Humanities. Now, the real plot twist here is the day after I gave the first lecture, I was then diagnosed with a life-threatening brain tumor.
Oh.
And they wanted to operate immediately, told me I had the weekend to get my affairs in order, and they wanted me back on Tuesday for brain surgery. And I refused, because I knew that in order to see dreams come true, you had to overcome obstacles and deal with conflict. And this was a chance for me to not just teach that, but to actually live it. Yeah. And so I delayed the surgery for 2.5 months so I could teach the stupid class about an amusement park. Everybody thought I was crazy. Spoiler alert, I taught the class, had the surgery, survived. And on the other side of the surgery, at that point, I didn't care that I didn't know how to write the book. I said, screw it, I'm writing it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took teaching the class, getting sick, having the surgery, getting over myself and my own mortality, and then writing the book.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So how does one even begin to try and write a college level course on Disneyland? Because I feel like all of us like Disney diehard nerds would be like, yes, we'd take that class. But how do you even go into crafting something like that to then have it be approved to then be able to teach at the college level?
Well, you have to recognize that you're going to get a lot of opposition, and you're going to have to be okay with that. It's sort of like Walt pitching the idea that he's going to build an amusement park to start with. And, the amusement park operators told him he was crazy. And the more they hated it, the more Walt knew he was on the right path. And, Roy would call the bank up and say, if my brother comes down there to pitch you guys about that damn amusement park, I want to know about it. And, Lily's like, why would you want one of those? Those places are filthy. And Walt's like, that's the point. Mine will be clean. You're going to get a lot of opposition because it doesn't sound very academic. In fact, it almost sounds fun. And what are kids doing having fun in a college class?
Yeah.
And I've always sort of had that Walt in me of, if we're not having fun, what's the point?
Yeah.
And you're going to learn better by telling stories. I mean, that's what his story is, right? It's a series of stories. So, let's get in the classroom, have some fun, and tell stories, and let's see what we can learn and remember by the end of the day. But then secondly, and again, you have to like figure out what your angle is. My angle is simply this. If you want to know what's going on in the United States from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, look at what's going on in Disneyland. It's a mirror. It's a reflection. So, for example, watch the opening day broadcast. It's July 17th, 1955. Everybody who walks into the park is white, has a perfect 2.5 kids. There's zero diversity unless you're either A, a celebrity, Sammy Davis Jr., or B, a stereotypical cast member, i.e. Aunt Jemima. That's it. Because that's who America was, or at least who America wanted to believe she was in July of 1955, because we're still 6 months away from Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. People today are losing their minds over woke Disney, right? Well, guess what? What's happening at Disney right now is what's happening across the country.
Yeah.
Just like that's what was happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. So again, I pitched the course as a history course, and this idea that I would be able to reflect and mirror U.S. history through Walt's story and the history of the park. And it worked.
Fascinating. That's really cool. I've never thought of that, because when I think of like obviously it's the same time and the same timeline, but I think of them, they're separate in my brain for some reason. So when you just pointed out, that was 6 months prior to Rosa Parks, it's like, wow, like you never, I don't know, I just think of them separately. Maybe that's a me thing.
No, I hadn't, honestly, I just had not thought about it in that frame. Like when I watch, an opening, it's just kind of like, for me, I feel like for a lot of Disney fans, like the whole point, and I would, Walt even wanted this, it seemed like with the berm and everything, that Disneyland is a place separate from the world, that you go there to get away from the world. And so I guess I just never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right that it is a mirror of what's going on. I mean, even getting up towards more today, some of the policies that they've changed to allow longer hair and facial hair and tattoos. I tell you, I want to say a third, maybe a half of cast members that we encountered on this last trip have facial hair or tattoos. And I'm like, wow, that kind of happened fairly quick in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And again, you might be 100% okay with it. You might hate it. You might land somewhere in between. But it's a reflection and it's a mirror of what's happening across the country.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
So, I'll give you another example. The Disneyland television program, which helped get the park built. Walt doesn't have the money to build Disneyland, and so he needs a lot of corporate sponsors. He needs a television broadcast partner. CBS says no, NBC says no. So he partners with ABC. And the Disneyland TV program premieres on a Wednesday night in October of 1954. Well, in December of that year, they start doing Tomorrowland episodes. And those Tomorrowland episodes feature a rocket scientist that had been rescued from Nazi Germany, Werner von Braun, who starts talking about sending rockets to the moon. Well, the next day, officials from the Eisenhower White House called Disney Studio and say, hey, the president needs a copy of last night's episode because he wants to send his generals a copy of what was on the air. And that is the beginning of what would become NASA.
Wow.
And if you go back and you look at the moon landings, 4 minutes before they land on the moon in July of 1969, they show America gathered around a television in Tomorrowland, in Disneyland, in Anaheim, California. And NASA would go on to thank Walt Disney for making the moon landings possible because he made funding for NASA popular. And without those broadcasts, that never happened. So again,
Wow.
Disneyland is a reflection of what is happening, has happened, or is going to happen across the country.
That's amazing.
You know, I want to take this class from you now. Because like you're talking about all the stuff that I didn't know. So
All these
Teresa,
intersections that we didn't realize. Yeah.
listeners know when we do trivia that we are stumped a lot because we have some trivia questions that people send in that are kind of nutty.
They're very deep.
Like they're very deep, detailed, whatever. But like we're fairly knowledgeable, but you just told us two things in those two stories that like we had never heard about that or thought about that before. So see, like you learn something new all the time.
I think you just very clearly explained to us and to everyone how very, very, very obviously how this could be a course and how it's relevant and how you can tie it in. Because that was really cool.
And I think that the two examples you gave us were very engaging and interesting as opposed to like, just a boring like, well, we created NASA and then we ended up going to the moon in a few years and, whatever. But because it's like something that we can connect to and it's kind of fun to learn new things and relate it to things that you kind of already know or didn't even think they were related. Like the fact that a great trivia question. What do the Disneyland TV show and NASA have in common? I wouldn't have had any idea. It's crazy.
Yeah. And even just television itself, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the emerging technology in the 1950s. And the studios in Hollywood want nothing to do with TV. It's going to completely destroy their industry. And Walt's like, no, I'm going to partner with television and I'm going to use it to build the park and I'm going to use it to communicate with every American in their living room on a weekly basis. And this is another fun fact. The reason why you have 4 lands after you walk down Main Street, the single entrance in and single exit out, is because 4 represents the average number of channels on a television set in downtown Los Angeles in 1955. 4 channels, 4 stories, 4 lands.
Wow.
But see,
wild.
Walt was brilliant because he knew how to look at something new and use it in his favor. So like TV, right? He looked at it not as something to be afraid of or to ignore because it's going to decimate something, but as like another, to use a weird phrase, like a new frontier that he could, and use to advertise. And the fact that, if you think back on it, I've never consciously thought about this, so I'm literally going through this as I'm coming to this realization. It was free advertising. Like, you don't get that nowadays. Like, the TV show was called Disneyland. So that whole time it was on, it was just promoting his theme park.
Yep.
And
It was
ABC
the
was like,
first infomercial.
yeah. I think about this with like The Price is Right, the same thing. Like everybody loves Price is Right, but you realize that literally the entire show is a commercial for the items that they're trying to get you to guess the price of or whatever the whole time. But we love it.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. Well, and then fast forward 5 years, like when people think of Disney and television, they're like, oh, Uncle Walt on Sunday night and NBC. That's not the original program. The original program is ABC Disneyland Wednesday nights. That only lasted 5 years. And NBC, which had said no in 1955, now can't sign up fast enough because everything is a success, right? And they can't, they want to be a part of it. And part of the reason why they say yes in 1960 is because NBC is owned by RCA. And so the wonderful world of color was all about RCA selling color television.
Sure.
That was the killer app for moving color televisions in the United States. So again, it's all about synergy and it's all about commercial. Like, as much as Walt wasn't about money, he sure knew how to make it.
Yeah. Well, and I
That's very
sometimes
true.
wish that people like Walt, business people like Walt would be more around today, because I feel like he understood more than a lot of leaders right now, because there's a lot of pressure, I guess, on leaders right now to constantly just be making more and more money every time. And he knew, which I learned the first thing about business way back in the day, is you got to spend money to make money. You got to reinvest in the business. And I feel like a lot of businesses aren't really doing that right now because of, shareholder pressure and this, that, and the other thing. And having somebody like Walt who's like, no, we're going to take this money and we're going to keep pushing the boundaries, which he realized you're going to keep making money. If you keep moving things forward, you're going to make crap tons of money. I mean, they basically print money at the parks.
Well, there used to be political and tax incentive to reinvest in the business. Now there's only really incentive to just, like, the average billionaire today owns 12 homes. That wasn't true 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And most millionaires and billionaires reinvested in their businesses, which benefited the business and the employees in that business. That's just no longer true today.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. What was the reaction from students of taking this class?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget the first lecture. They absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in the keynote that I give. The idea that you're sitting on, the dream that you're waiting to take action on, it matters, and not just to you. Why did Walt build Disneyland? Because he wanted one. It was the toy he never had as a kid. And that's okay, because here we are, 70 years later? Walt's been gone since 1966, and we can't go often or fast enough.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to do this thing that you desperately want to do, because at the end of the day, it's going to matter to others too. And the students, like I said, loved it. And I was very fortunate over the years to get the course evaluations and to read feedback that said, best course I've ever taken, best interdisciplinary course because it covered business and it covered engineering and it covered art and it covered science. And yeah, the tour of the park was amazing, but what everybody loved were the guest lecturers. I mean, we had people like Sam Genoway, author of the Disneyland Story, and his book on Epcot is amazing. Sam, now a retired urban planner. And then Bill Butler of Garner Holt Productions would come in and give a lecture on the history of audio animatronics all the way back to the Roman Empire.
Wow.
And then we would end the semester with a tour of Garner Holt Productions in San Bernardino, which was just, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that, you can't do with a ticket at Disneyland.
Did you take the students to Disneyland for one of the things?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want a class that I can go to Disneyland.
And Garner Holt
Yeah.
Productions.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Like you could miss a day, like you could miss a class, you couldn't miss that class.
Right.
Oh.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
the field trip was an absolute requirement. And what was really cool, so what I would do with the field trip is, and think about this, I had to split the field trip into 2 different weekends because students wanted to bring friends and family with them. Now, in almost every other college class, students are looking for a reason to miss class. They're not looking for a reason to invite friends and family.
Yeah.
Right? But this was the exact opposite, which I thought was super cool. And one of my favorite stories is I had a young lady, and I want to say the 2nd or 3rd year, and at the end of one of the field trips, she had brought her dad, and he pulled me aside and he said, I just want to say, this was amazing. My daughter and I have been going through a really, really rough time, This is the best day we've had together in I don't remember when.
Wow.
And and when you hear stories like that, you've done something like really, really cool.
Yeah.
And the other, I had a disproportionate number of veterans take the class, and they had a variety of challenges, coming out of war from Iraq and Afghanistan, and God bless them and their service to our country, and and they would typically sort of have a hard shell about them, which is completely understandable. And on more than one occasion, there would be this, I got to go to Disneyland. I got to be there at 8:00 in the morning. Yeah, right. I'm going to make that day miserable if you're going to make me do this kind of attitude. And it was pretty clear that they were taking the course to fulfill a history requirement and keep their, VA benefits flowing, which was fine, whatever. And then they would get there and they would start having fun.
Yeah.
And that shell would loosen.
Yeah.
And they would get on something like, say, the teacups, and that competitive spirit would break in, and they would start seeing who could go the fastest, and it was just sort of fun to watch those barriers break down.
Yeah.
And and that's magical, and it only happens at Disney.
Yeah.
So what was the field trip like? Was it? I'm sure it was more than just a typical park day, group outing thing. What were some of the things that you guys would do together and kind of tie it back into the course?
So I would point out historical spots, fun facts, trivia, and lots of leadership and success principles. So, for example, in Fantasyland, we talked about the importance of going into Fantasyland and those original dark rides. People don't realize that when Walt built the park for the purpose of telling stories, his expectation was, as guests, we would be active participants in those stories, not, passive spectators. And so as much as we loved Disneyland from day one, originally guests were a little bit confused because when they showed up in Fantasyland, they showed up looking for Snow White, looking for Peter Pan, looking for Mr. Toad, and they weren't there. Walt intentionally left the heroes out of those stories and out of those attractions because his expectation was, well, you're going to be Snow White. You're going to be Peter Pan. We all get to be Mr. Toad, which is cool, but it was also like very, very, very confusing. Yeah. And so in 1983, to avoid the confusion and daily complaints at City Hall on Main Street, when they renovated Fantasyland at a cost of $55.5 million, they put the heroes and the lead characters into those stories and into those attractions for the first time. And so I point that out to the students, and then I remind them, you got to be the hero in your own story. And whatever it is you want to accomplish in life, guess what? Show up, nobody's coming.
There you go.
You're
Very
it.
cool.
You want to write that book?
Guess
no one else is going to write it for you.
Yeah.
You want to graduate? No one's going to take the class for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So stop looking for a hero. Start showing up and be that hero. You talked about fun facts, and you probably already know this, but most students aren't aware Doritos were invented at Disneyland. And students are blown away by that. And, the idea that something that they know and eat maybe almost every day came from a place that, again, that they love and go to almost every year. Those simple kinds of connections are like really, really cool. Here's a fun story. I had a student who was a theater major. And at the end of the day, we were watching Fantasmic, and they were near one of the production boards. And somehow they struck up a conversation with a cast member. And the cast member found out, oh, well, I'm a student at CBU, and I'm here on a field trip for History of Disneyland. And and the next thing she knew, she was sitting at the production board learning everything that they were doing for Fantasmic.
Wow.
That's just super cool stuff.
That's amazing. That's really incredible.
That is amazing. So that's a great first part of our conversation was the college class, which I think is fascinating. Well, why did you stop doing it? I guess let me ask that before we wrap up with that.
So I retired from higher ed 3.5 years ago to write and speak full time.
So you taught it up until you retired?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. COVID hit, and then I had some more health challenges. And, when we got to the other side of COVID, my speaking schedule was just so full. And I was I'm like, to do both was going to just be exhausting. And I'm like, I really just want to do this full time. And I had the opportunity to do it. So I did.
I mean, that's what you got to do. Well, that's going to wrap up the conversation for this week. Join us next week where we're going to continue to talk to Jeff, Dr. Disneyland, which now I feel like definitely Dr. Disneyland after all the stuff we've just learned in this class, in this part of the interview. And join us next week where we're going to talk about Jeff's book, The Wisdom of Walt, which is actually kind of what I know you more from and from your newsletter that talks about the wisdom of Walt. So that'll be next week.
We first spoke with our friends over at Where in the Park back on episode 265. Amanda and Kevin create amazing and fun seek and find scavenger hunt games in the theme parks all over the United States. Whether you want a challenge at the Disneyland Resort or you want to explore a new place like Universal Studios, Knott's Berry Farm, or SeaWorld, there are fun game packs for everyone. For the digital folks, there are even some digital packs now. From beginner to expert, Where in the Park is perfect for a first-time visit to experience the small details that make the parks wonderful places to visit, or to challenge yourself on your 1000th visit to see how well you know those small details. Then, Where in the Park is definitely for you. Visit our link in the show notes to get started.
Your attention, please. DL Weekly Trivia is now leaving for a Grand Circle tour of the Magic Kingdom, with stops at New Orleans Square, Mickey's Toontown, and Tomorrowland. All weekly tiers for...
Welcome back to Trivia Land, where we are going to find out the answers to tonight's trivia questions. James, Teresa, how are you feeling?
I am excited to find out all the answers to Trivia Land because
I'm not sure how we did.
I'll be happy with one.
I'm not sure how we did this week. I feel like we may have come close to a lot of them.
I'm just crossing my fingers. Maybe one of us got James Bond, right?
Well, let's see how you did. Your very first question from listener Dave M. is that James Bond question. Which James Bond movie references Disneyland? James said, The Man with the Golden Gun. Teresa said, Goldfinger. The correct answer. Director Guy Hamilton adapted an idea of Bond in Disneyland for Scaramunga's Funhouse, creating a melting pot of ideas for part funhouse and part whorehouse in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Good job, James.
Thanks, Teresa, for making me go on theme. Oh my gosh. You said Scaramanga, and I'm like, I got it right.
I would give you bonus points just for naming all of those different James Bond film titles.
Thank you. My family would be ashamed of me if I did not, so.
Well done. Your second listener submitted question from listener Ryan J. How many chanting tiki masks are there in the enchanted tiki room? James said 24. Teresa said 20. The correct answer I was looking for. With 6 on each of the 4 inside corner
6.
poles, the answer is 24.
Oh, I got it
job,
right.
James.
3 and 3. Thanks for talking me down to that one.
Apparently, the original plan called for one more lower layer of masks, but they were eliminated because they were afraid guests would stick their fingers in the mouth.
Oh,
Oh, that checks out.
Yeah.
That would be a garbage catcher now at this point. So
Oh, yeah.
how many Dole Whip cups?
I always find myself staring at the exact same one. I don't know why that is, but I'm always staring at the same, like, which one is it? This guy.
Same, yes. The guy that has the really long nose and the eyes that are super shifty and the like just
Well, I
the
guess
bare mouth.
looking at it, they all have kind of shifty eyes,
gosh,
but there's
they
something
do.
about him. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't think he blinks evenly. So I don't know. That's the one I always watch, though.
We're gonna have to make a pact next time that we watch separate.
Pick a different one.
Teresa, look up. I'll look down.
Your third regular round question from listener Donna S. Sorry for it being out of season, but I like the question. Who was the first person to narrate the candlelight processional? James said Roy, and Teresa said Walt. Both of those, of course, being Disney. The correct answer that I was looking for was actor Dennis Morgan of MGM and Warner Brothers movie fame.
I mean, that was our second guess.
Of course, yeah.
This, of course, began a long tradition of people from screen, stage, and sports lending their fame to the ceremony.
Dang.
That is not a name I was going to find.
No.
Should have stuck with Walt's favorite Imagineer.
Yes. And your fourth and final regular round question for tonight from listener Nicholas E. What year did the Disneyland Hotel officially get a monorail station? James said 1966. Teresa said 1964. The correct answer that was provided and verified is 1961.
Oh, wow, that's early.
You know what's bad is now that I was just rethinking, I'm like, wait a minute, they would have been working on the monorail in 64 or to get it to open in 64 because they were too busy trying to do the World's Fair. And 66 would have been like the recoup from the World's Fair, moving everything back around. We did not think our Disney history through.
We did not. We did not.
Oh, well. There's always next week. Oh, there's always the next question. We still have hope,
Yes,
James.
you
There's
do still have
a
your
sliver,
bonus question tonight.
Sliver.
I feel good one of us probably got this, right?
So your bonus question from 8-year-old Siriana. At which Disney location can you make your own ears, specifically not the plush-on headband ears that you can build at Disney Springs, the better ones?
The better ones.
So James said at the Mad Hatter on Main Street, and Teresa said that holiday shop.
At the end of Main Street across from
Yes.
Coke Corner.
Yes.
She can draw you a map.
Yep, I can draw you a map.
The correct answer that I was looking for. Both of you provided me with places where you can make plush-on headband ears.
Oh.
And what we wanted, what Siriana was specifically referencing, was Alani Resort's Pauhana Room, where you can choose from flowers, decorations, and even LED-lighted ears.
Oh. Did not realize that we were thinking outside of the Disneyland Resort. We should have verified.
I've never heard of that place.
I will
the question
argue,
was
though.
Disney location and not the plush-on headband.
Sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
Sneaky. Well, and I guess you're not making the ones where they customize them for you.
Yeah, that's true.
At the Plaza Point holiday shop, because we looked it up. The full name.
Yep.
That was good.
That was good.
I have seen that, though. I have seen where, that people do that at Alani. I think it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to know, Siriana, have you gotten to make your own ears at Alani? Write us in and let us know at Trivia Land.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know. And if you've got some sneaky, awesome question that you think will be able to really stump them next time, and you'd like to hear that question asked live on the air, feel free to send that in to us at DLWeekly.net/trivia.
Well, we will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
And a special thank you to our editor, Sidel.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal podcast companion. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this episode? My scans indicate you have been a good weekly tier. Have a lollipop. Now excuse me while I let out some air. Goodbye.